So you guys may know Hunter Biden has a child that he is providing child support payments to, but just reached a settlement with the mom to never take the Biden last name for this child. And his father, President Biden, doesn't even acknowledge that this child exists. He frequently says, very specifically, he has 6 grandchildren. Well, if you included this child, who is his grandchild, that would be 7 grandchildren. And Maureen Dowd of the New York Times, obviously liberal, oftentimes Biden supporter, actually just penned a column quite critical of the president for his treatment of this 7th grandchild. The ladies of View decided to weigh in on this in their own special way. Let's take a listen.
Maureen Dowd is saying it's bad for the child that the president has not acknowledged her. So I kind of think, well, she should be fetching at the son, whose baby it is. It's not the president's baby. So I don't know what you think, but I'm throwing it out there.
I agree with you completely. It shouldn't have been directed to Joe Biden. It should be directed to Hunter Biden. It's 5 children, not 4, Hunter, because this is not Joe Biden's baby. And I think it's very hard for Joe Biden to be a grandfather to the child if his son is not being a father. He can talk to his child. He can advise Hunter. But look, what is absolutely evident to me is that the right wing and the MAGA world has decided to weaponize Hunter Biden against his dad.
Yeah.
And everything and anything Hunter does or does not do is going to be weaponized.
I have to tell you, this story actually affected me way more than I expected it to. Let's go ahead and put Maureen Dowd's column up on the screen. She talks about this little 4-year-old girl in rural Arkansas who's growing up there, learning to ride a camouflage pattern 4-wheeler alongside her cousins. Some days she wears a bow in her hair. On other days, she threads her long blonde ponytail through the back of a baseball cap. When she's old enough, she'll learn to hunt just like her mother did when she was young. She says the girl is aware that her father is Hunter Biden. Her paternal grandfather is the president of the United States. She speaks about both of them often, but she has not met them. Her maternal grandmother describes her as wit, smart, and funny. Listen, this is a president who has made family central to his political brand. I mean, and I think that's part of what the American people have really responded to with him. You know, it's his empathy, it's the way that he centers his family and the tragedies that have befallen his family, even the way that he has embraced Hunter despite a lot of struggles with addiction and, you know, major roller coaster there, to say the least. I don't know how you just disown this child. I just don't know how you can morally justify that in any instance. And, you know, this is like a normal family in rural Arkansas. The dad, who's kind of the patriarch there, this is the child's grandfather on his mother's side, her mother's side. He owns a gun store. I think he went hunting with Don Jr. Like, he seems to have some Republican leanings.
So
Who
what?
cares? Yeah. So what? And to me, it comes across, especially the piece about how hard they fought to make sure that this child cannot have the Biden last name. I mean, it really smacks of classism. It smacks of just elitism, like you aren't worthy enough and the circumstances of your birth are too tawdry for us to even acknowledge that you exist, and certainly not to welcome you into the family. I don't think it's defensible, and I think it's grotesque that The View tried to defend it.
Oh, it's sick. I mean, look, obviously Hunter is the one here most to blame. I mean, he knocked up a stripper and then basically banished her, you know, refused to pay. She literally had to sue him for child support and for support. So let's put the deadbeat, repulsive behavior aside. He's not the president, so that's fine. But the president is the person, as you said, who puts family at the center. The loss that he has experienced throughout his life as a testament to his character and how he conducts himself on a daily basis. And he refuses to acknowledge, you know, the grandchild that he has by birthright, you know, in Arkansas. And then do we really believe that Hunter was the person who wasn't the, you know, just the only one pushing that she wouldn't be able to use the Biden family name?
Right.
Like, we know that he was obviously intimately involved in this. And, you know, Fox News' Peter Doocy has asked him about this grandchild before, and he's flown off the handle, calling him a classy guy, family and all this stuff. I'm like, well, look, you're pursuing one of the most classless acts that I've seen, from a person who is a head of state, who's effectively shunning somebody who is your grandchild through absolutely zero fault of their own. This is a 4-year-old who is full knowledge of you as their grandparent and of your father. And if your son chooses to be a deadbeat dad, that's one thing, but it is an absolute choice on your behalf in order to not publicly embrace this person. And I also think, look, America's messy, and our divorce rate speaks to that, and I think there's a lot of problems and all that, but most Americans would feel nothing but deep empathy towards you for embracing this child and for saying, no matter what, family is family. We don't care about the circumstances. Mistakes have been made and all of that, but he's an 80-year-old man. Do you really want to go to your deathbed knowing that one of your grandchildren, who is related to you by blood, has no relationship with you? And then also for have this publicly be a thing and to still retrench in that position is the height of disgust for how a person conducts himself in this way. And it's not just about Biden, it's about, Jill Biden, the entire first family, and the way that they have behaved here. This is Kennedy-esque in terms of the way they, rally around Ted after Chappaquiddick and all that, and the way that they keep these things, very internal and try and keep the shame and they go after those who, are victims of their own personal behavior just to try and retain some public image. It's so unfair, really, to this family.
And you're right.
Yeah.
Families can be messy.
Right.
Family, this is obviously not something that, Hunter really wanted or Joe Biden really anticipated. But this child is not responsible for the way that she came into the world. It's not her fault who her parents are. And so, I also was thinking about Saagar. Remember when after Beau Biden died and Hunter ended up in a relationship with Beau's widow.
Right.
And actually, Joe and Jill acknowledged that and put their stamp of approval on that. That was also very messy and also rather tawdry. But, apparently they found the characters in that relationship highborn enough for them to acknowledge. So that's why I really feel like this just smacks of a deep sort of classism and condescension. And the piece that Anna Navarro said, I guess in particular, bothered me about this isn't really on Joe. They should be asking Hunter about it. And it's like, okay, but Hunter's not the president of the United States, number one. And number two, how many grandparents are out there in America right now who have, been in difficult circumstances with their kids and they have stepped up for their grandchildren in spite of whatever is going on with their children? There are a lot, millions of grandparents who have stepped in to fulfill that role. So to completely absolve him of this, I just genuinely don't understand how you can do it. And yes, the Republicans are doing everything they can to weaponize Hunter. There's no doubt about it. But that does not change the reality that, number one, this is Maureen Dowd, hardly like a Republican operative here. And number two, this child is his grandchild. And the basic human, decent thing to do is to welcome and celebrate her and have her be part of the family.
You're absolutely right. Think about millions of people out there who, with very similar circumstances, who had crack-addicted children, who may have fathered children, out of wedlock and all that, and they stepped up.
Go to West Virginia. The number of grandparents who are raising kids, their grandkids, listen.
Where I'm from, it's a very common thing as well. I know a lot of people. That's why I said, if you act in the right way, you actually could have some empathy. But, look, he's chosen to conduct himself this manner. I think it's absolutely disgusting.
Hey guys, if you like that video, go to breakingpoints.com, become a premium subscriber, and help us build the best independent media organization on the planet.
That's right. We're subscriber funded. We're building something new. We want to replace these failing mainstream media organizations.
So again, to subscribe, it's breakingpoints.com.